This is Living Rooted Health and Wellness. Welcome back. This is Mary. This is week 2 of our 6-week conversation. We'll say conversation on emotional capacity. What it is. Last week we discussed that each stressor or thing in life has an emotional weight to it, and so we carry something can be heavier than others, like divorce or separation or grief and loss of a loved one, alienation from an adult child. These can be a lot more heavier to carry compared to something that's more medium. A 40-hour work week, a 60-hour work week, planning for a wedding. It could be this. It depends. Again, like we talked about, it depends on the person and how they handle stress in their life. And then we have the small ones, which are more of the micro things that we do daily, and even like going to the gym, going grocery shopping, going to work every day, whatever it is, picking up your kids, whatever it is. So every one of these carry a weight, carry an emotional weight. I call it the emotional load. And these jars represent our capacity, our ability to handle the stress. Sometimes we are in a smaller capacity because there's just a lot of bombardment in our life at that time, or we just have a hard time being resilient and coping and adapting to things in our life. So sometimes we stay stuck in a smaller place of capacity. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Some people they just naturally feel better here than piling so much on their life. Again, we don't want to overload ourselves with things to do and extra stressors. So we carry stresses from old, and we carry stressors from current and ongoing stressors in our life. They don't have to be stressors, but they are an emotional weight, right? So again, going to the grocery store, going to the gym every day, it does, like it compounds, right? So today we are going to be discussing, we're going to get into some of the 14 practical ways on how to, so I'm going to try to keep these videos short. So we're going to get into the 14 practical ways on how to deal and cope and handle each stressor that you have. And as you cope and deal and handle with each stressor that you have, you become more resilient. And in that case, your capacity to handle more things will grow over time. Okay, that's kind of the thing. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we're all supposed to be here and we're all supposed to handle and juggle 1,500 things in our life. And that's not what I'm saying. It is who God made you to be and the abilities and capabilities that He has put and giftings that He has put in your life. So everyone is going to have varying degrees of what they can handle, how they can handle it. But again, testings and things that we go through in life, we should let them strengthen us, right? And build us up. So the first one I want to talk about, I am going to have a cheat sheet so I don't forget, because I'm going to be reading out scriptures as well. So the first one we're going to be talking about is rest. And I kind of touched on that last week. So it's important to be proactive in rest, like I said last week. So we rest before we burn out. We rest before we get into overwhelm. We rest before we hit that wall, right? So we want to rest before we get there, because again, once we get there, we can rest, but it's just reactive. It's reactive rest, right? We don't want to have to burn out to rest. We want to rest so we don't burn out, okay? So there are 3 types of rest that I'm going to look at. We're going to look at physical rest. Physical rest is, first and foremost, I think nature is one of the best ways to rest. Get out, hike, get to the beach, whatever it is. Sit out on your back patio, whatever it is, to get back to nature, get back to what God has created to actually help calm us down and regulate our nervous system, okay? And with that physical rest, it's an aspect of slowing right down, slowing down. It is the speed and pace of life that can stress us out, and it starts to get into overwhelm. So we want to slow down. So rest isn't always just laying on your couch all day long, right? Is there times that we are going to rest that way? Absolutely. But rest is learning to slow down, just be in the present. Don't be looking in the future, don't be looking in the past, just be in the present, okay? Then we're going to look at spiritual rest. So spiritual rest, it is just getting before the Lord, spending time, getting your word, reading and praying. That should be the focus. And then outside of there, get with fellow believers that can help stir you up and strengthen you. Because again, iron sharpens iron. And get around restful. Get around believers that are not necessarily going to stress you out. They are going to strengthen you and build you up. Those are your spiritual cheerleaders. Stay around them, right? And they'll do their job, especially if they're gifted to do that. So we want the physical and we want the spiritual rest, right? And then we also need creative rest. What is something that we enjoy doing? And it's relaxing to the nervous system, it's relaxing to the mind. Sometimes when you're in this state of creative rest, like you notice your mind's not chattering so much. It could be crocheting or knitting or building like little homes. Like right now I'm building little homes, it's very detailed, right? Because my brain's detailed. So I find it highly relaxing. Other people would find it highly frustrating, right? Again, that's just how I function and how I live. So, so creative rest, something that you enjoy doing that is approving from God, right? So, it's not like, oh, I'm just going to go out and do whatever and just because it feels good, right? It's something that literally calms and relaxes the nervous system, calms your brain. You notice that you have way less chatter. Sometimes it's people are journaling. Sometimes I knew a lady that she really felt more of a peace of mind when she wrote out her sermons. So it's whatever you feel that helps center you, and it's a slowing down, it's a relaxation, but it's something that you enjoy doing. There's a passion, there's a desire behind it. It's something you love to do. So when you actually get into this state, rest and downtime is essential for mental health as it aids the brain, and it aids the brain, so it functions it increases memory, it increases your creativity, it reduces cortisol, and again, it keeps you calm. And again, so when we stay in that more calmer state, that's again the parasympathetic nervous system that we're talking about. So some of the scriptures that we're going to be looking at. So the Word of God had told us to rest before we realized in science that it was good to rest, right? So Psalms 23, 2-3. He makes me lay down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. Again, that's your mind, will, and emotion. He leads me into the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So he's even talking about in Psalms, like, get out into nature. He's going to make you lay down in green pastures. You're just even thinking about you laying down next to a babbling brook or a stream, laying in a field of green. Even just that image of that, just images of that actually produces good chemicals in the body. So, and then Psalms 46:10, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. So again, it is finding rest. This is a spiritual rest. It's finding rest because he's telling you to be still. Slow down. Slow down. Be still and know that I am God. That I am God. He is our anchor. So we have to recognize that he is our anchor in that aspect of life. So that is a spiritual rest. But he's telling us, okay, I'm in a spiritual rest, but you have to slow down. I'm in a spiritual rest, but you have to slow down. He can be our spiritual rest, but if we're not slowing down and taking the time and spending time with him, we are going to be stressed out. We're going to be highly anxious. We're going to have anxiety. Potential depression can start forming because we're so much in our brain chattering, right? So, and the next one is Matthew 11:28-29. Come to me, all who are labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Again, that's spiritual rest. Take my yoke and you will learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Again, your souls are your mind, will, and emotions. Okay, so he's even saying, if you're labored and burdened, if you have too many of these balls going on in your life, if you have too many heavy loads, emotional loads, he will give you that rest. If you are heavy and laden burden, what do you think heavy and laden burden means? It's because we have too much going on. We have too many big balls, we have too many medium balls, we have too many small balls. We are heavy and laden burdened. So all of this stuff will weigh us down spiritually, mentally, and physically. They even connect stressors, right? Stresses and the way you think. They've connected it to a huge percentage of sickness and disease within the body. So again, he's telling us to rest. He's telling us, come to me, all who are labored and heavy burdened, right? So again, rest is highly important for the believers in Christ. We want to take heed of this. Rest is highly important. We want to take heed of it. And it's not just, I'm going to rest on Sunday. Yes, God gave us the Sabbath, right? I know the true Sabbath is actually on a Saturday. I understand that. But he gave us a day of rest, right? He didn't have to take a day of rest. He's God. But he's showing us. He's leading by example. He's showing us, take rest, slow down, calm down. So the first one, I just focus on rest in your life this week. Slow down. If you find yourself anxious and thinking and, I gotta do this and this and, all of these stressors start coming into your life and starts filling up your mind. And then worry starts coming because it's like, how can I get all this stuff done? And again, we have to slow down, deal with what we can, and things that we can't deal with, sometimes just hold on, give them a break, take responsibility of the things that you can deal with those first, okay? So rest is something we can deal with. You might have to work that 46-hour work week. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to feed people in your home. You got to pay your bills. So you have to do that. But one of the ways to combat that is resting, slowing down when you have time off, spending time before the Lord. So if your capacity load is starting to get full and you're starting to feel burnt out and snappy and all of that towards your family, that should be a reminder to go to rest. Go rest before the Lord. Take some spiritual rest. Get back into nature. Go for a hike. Go for a walk. Even if it's 20 minutes after you have dinner, whatever it is. Slow down, because the pace of life will stress you out and it will overwhelm you if you do not slow down. So that is the first practical way. Next week I will get into self-love. I'll probably do 2 next week. I'll probably do self-love and how facing hard situations in life. How do you deal with hard situations in life? And you deal with them head on, baby. So I hope that gives you a better understanding. Try to exercise the gift of rest. Recognize it's a gift. Exercise the gift of rest this week. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy.